In the summer of 1969, two small Central American nations stood on the brink of something unimaginable. A football, yes, a simple soccer ball, became the spark that ignited a full-scale war. What began as World Cup qualifiers exploded into 4 days of chaos, death, and heartbreak that history remembers as the Football War, or the 100-Hour War. But this wasn't really about football. Beneath the passion of the pitch lay decades of fear, land hunger, and simmering hatred between neighbors who once shared dreams of a better life. How did a game push two countries over the edge? What horrors unfolded in just 100 hours? And what does it reveal about how fragile peace can be when pride and poverty collide? Stay with me, because this story will shock you. El Salvador and Honduras, two countries bound by borders, history, and hardship. In the 1960s, El Salvador was bursting at the seams. Its population grew rapidly, but land was scarce. Thousands of Salvadoran families crossed into Honduras, seeking work on plantations and a chance to farm. For years, they lived side by side. But resentment brewed in Honduras. Local farmers felt squeezed. The government passed land reforms that targeted immigrant settlers. Tensions rose as Honduran authorities began expelling Salvadoran families, sometimes violently. Homes were burned, people beaten. Stories of fear spread like wildfire across the border. El Salvador's government watched with growing anger. Their people were being driven out, often with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Nationalist voices on both sides grew louder. Radio stations and newspapers fanned the flames. Two poor nations, ruled by military leaders, needed someone to blame. And soon, the perfect stage would appear: the football pitch. June 1969, the 1970 World Cup qualifiers. Neither country had ever reached the finals. This was their shot at glory. The first leg in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, Honduras wins 1-0. But victory tastes bitter. Fans clash in the stands. Violence spills into streets. A young Salvadoran woman, devastated by the loss and the hatred around her, takes her own life. Her funeral is broadcast nationwide, turning grief into rage. The second leg in San Salvador is pure madness. El Salvador crushes Honduras 3-0. The atmosphere is toxic. The Honduran flag is desecrated. Visiting fans are attacked. The team is kept awake all night by hostile crowds outside their hotel. Players fear for their lives. Back in Honduras, retaliation is swift and brutal. Salvadoran immigrants face mobs, beatings, and worse. Hundreds of thousands flee in terror. A decisive third match in neutral Mexico City. El Salvador wins in extra time. National pride explodes in San Salvador. But in Honduras, humiliation turns to fury. Diplomatic ties are severed. The pitch has become a battlefield of symbols. Football fever has infected everything. The football was over, but the real game had just begun. In El Salvador, the military prepared in secret. On July 14, 1969, at dusk, Salvadoran planes, many outdated World War II relics, roared across the border. Bombs fell on Honduran airfields and fuel depots. Ground troops surged forward, tanks and soldiers crossing into enemy territory. Honduras was caught off guard, but fought back fiercely. Their air force, with more modern fighters, struck back at Salvadoran positions. Villages near the border became war zones. Families fled with whatever they could carry. Children cried amid gunfire. Soldiers on both sides, many young conscripts, faced death in the name of national honor. For civilians, it was terror. Salvadoran immigrants still in Honduras faced pogroms. In El Salvador, fear of invasion gripped cities. The 100 hours had begun. A whirlwind of chaos where old grudges met modern weapons. Day 1. Salvadoran forces pushed deep into Honduras, capturing towns and pushing back defenders. Initial success brings euphoria in San Salvador, but resistance stiffens. Day 2 and 3. Air battles rage overhead. Honduran corsairs dominate the skies, downing Salvadoran aircraft. Ground fighting turns bloody around key border areas like Nueva Ocotepe. Casualties mount rapidly, soldiers and civilians alike. Hospitals overflow. Families mourn lost sons. The human cost was devastating. Thousands dead or wounded. Over 300,000 displaced. Economies shattered. Farms destroyed. In just days, 2 fragile nations tore each other apart. Pride had blinded them to the shared poverty that should have united them instead. By July 18th, after exactly 100 hours of fighting, the Organization of American States brokers a ceasefire. El Salvador withdraws its troops weeks later under pressure. No clear winner emerges, only losers. The war leaves deep scars. Thousands dead, many more injured. Economies in ruins. Displaced families struggle for years. The hatred lingers, but so does a painful realization. Football was never the true enemy. It was a mirror reflecting deeper failures, inequality, weak leadership, and the dangerous power of nationalism. Both nations eventually move forward, but the football war remains a haunting reminder of how quickly passion can turn to tragedy. The football war shows us that the beautiful game can unite or destroy. In 100 hours, neighbors became enemies, and a continent watched in horror. What lessons do we carry today when sports, politics, and identity collide? If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and comment, could something like this happen again? Share your thoughts. For more untold history that shocks and inspires, turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, and peace on and off the pitch.